This Black Friday, get Sky Entertainment for £22 a month, then feel it all with a spectacular 50% off Sky Sports, including the Manchester Derby and the darts. Build your perfect bundle today. Choose any or all of our Sky TV packages and get an incredible 50% off. Hurry, join today. Visit sky.com. Offer ends 2nd of December. New 18-month minimum terms or 31 days notice to cancel depending on package. Discount on standard pricing with same minimum terms. Set up £25. Kit loaned at no cost.
Keys? Check. Lunchbox? Check. 8-year-old ready to go? Check. There's one more thing you should check before you leave. Your travel. There's a new segregated section of Cycleway 4 under construction on the A200 Creek Road around the junction with Deptford Church Street. So expect delays due to lane closures. Plan ahead and check alternative routes at tfl.gov.uk. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
Coffee shop, cashback, cat flaps, cashback, beanbags, rucksack, hire car, buy a car, flapjack, cashback, dumbbells, cashback, takeaway, holiday to anywhere the sun is at, bum bag, laptop, big match, hatchback, binge watching, paintballing, crab fishing, cashback, anything you want to buy, everywhere you want to go. Guess what? Cashback. Whatever you spend your money on, get money back every time with the American Express Platinum Cashback Everyday Credit Card. Search Amex Cashback. Representative 22.9% APR variable. Minimum annual spend to receive cashback. Terms apply. 18 plus subject to approval.
The puck drops. 12 players face off to win. The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. TuneIn brings you every minute of the NHL season. Listen live to hockey when it matters most on TuneIn.
Thanksgiving is all about traditions like turkey, cranberry sauce, and bickering about politics with your relatives. If the dinner table gets to be too much, escape for a bit and pop in your earbuds to listen to the excitement of the NFL on TuneIn. We've got live play-by-play of every football game, so you can listen to epic touchdowns instead of your Uncle Harold.
Elliott picks his way into the end zone for the leading touchdown.
Live NFL when it matters the most. Hear it all season long on TuneIn.
From the Bloomberg Newsroom in New York, I'm Bob Moon. President Trump said today he was trying to protect an American warrior, explaining his actions in the case of a Navy SEAL accused of war crimes in Iraq. Chief Petty Officer Edward Gallagher was acquitted of murder in the stabbing death of an Islamic State militant captive, but convicted of posing with the corpse in 2017. Defense Secretary Mark Esper allowed Gallagher to retire with his trident pin, retaining his status as a SEAL. A U.S. military dog that played a starring role in the raid that killed Islamic State leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi seemed oblivious to the praise that President Trump heaped on it today at the White House. Conan seemed much more interested in head scratches it was getting from Mike Pence, repeatedly looking up at the vice president in search of more attention. The president said the dog was given a plaque and praise. Global News 24 hours a day. I'm Bob Moon.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. Shares of CVS Health rose after a report that activist investment firm Starboard Value has taken a small stake in the drugstore chain and held talks with management. Shares of the company, which runs almost 10,000 drugstores across the U.S., advanced 1.7% after the Wall Street Journal report. Westpac Banking CEO Brian Hartzer has resigned following allegations the lender committed the biggest violation of money laundering laws in Australian history. A move higher for the Dow, the S&P and NASDAQ on trade optimism. S&P up 23 points, higher by 0.7%. The Dow up 190 points, also up 0.7%. NASDAQ up 112, up 1.3%. I'm Charlie Pellet. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash. Bloomberg Best with June Grasso continues.
From the Bloomberg Interactive Broker Studio, this is Bloomberg Best. It's 47 minutes past the hour, and now it's time for Bloomberg Opinion. David Weston spoke with columnist Frank Wilkinson about voting in Dane County, Wisconsin, and why it's important.
Bloomberg Opinion, informed perspectives, and expert data-driven commentary on breaking news.
From the Interactive Broker Studio, it's time now for Bloomberg Opinion, and we welcome today columnist Francis Wilkinson. So, Frank, thank you so much for joining us. You're writing about the election, and you're writing about it in a way I love, because it's not the flyover, what does the country think? It's sort of area by area, and specifically county by county. You talk about Dane County, Wisconsin. Why do you think that's informative?
Well, Dane is an odd place, and it may be a singular place. It's the county in Wisconsin that has Madison, which is, of course, a notoriously liberal city. But its demographics in terms of race are very similar to the state as a whole. It's about 80% non-Hispanic white, which is pretty much what the state of Wisconsin is. And, of course, in 2016... Wisconsin was won by Trump by about 23,000 votes, whereas Dane voted for Clinton by 3-1.
And so one of the things you focus on the question of race and the fact that white voters turned out in large numbers in 2016, and President Trump got a majority of them. But as I read the piece, it's actually not entirely about race, it's also about density.
Well, it's about a number of things. If you look at Dane, it has a couple of characteristics that stand out. One, education. University of Wisconsin at Madison is there, the dominant school in the state. It has about 50% of Dane County residents have a bachelor's degree, so it's a highly educated area. It also has high income. It's about $67,000 household median income, and it has a very liberal tradition that goes along with that. But yes, if you look at Democratic politics and Republican politics in the United States, what you find is that one party is associated with low-density areas, and that's, the Republicans, with rural and small-town America, and one is highly associated with dense populations, cities, enclosed suburbs, and that's the Democrats. And this plays out in Wisconsin as well. Milwaukee and Madison are highly Democratic. The rural parts of Wisconsin tend to be, like the rest of the United States, much more Republican.
Well, what does this tell us, if anything, about what's likely to happen next year? Because, as you suggested, President Trump won, albeit narrowly, in swing states like Wisconsin, like Michigan, like Pennsylvania. Has the nature of the voting group changed since then?
I don't think it has. What we've seen is enormous stasis with this presidency, where his approval rating really has been stuck in a very narrow range, no matter what he does. So I don't think it's going to be that kind of change. I think what we're going to see is whether the sort of demographics of Michigan and Pennsylvania, for instance, which are the other key states in that trio that you mentioned, which are more black, less white, and where black turnout was a fall off in 2016. If Democrats can improve their prospects among black voters in both of those states, and they're looking pretty good for Democrats at the moment, then it will come down to Wisconsin as a swing state if you hold all other things equal. And Wisconsin is a highly white state, so then you're talking about who turns out, which is why a place like Dane becomes more interesting to look at, just because it is kind of an outlier. Even with its education levels and its income levels, it's an oddly Democratic area for a place that is so white.
What does this tell us about the various Democrats who are running for president right now? And I'll give you a couple of examples. It's generally thought that former Vice President Joe Biden does relatively well with African Americans. It's generally thought that Pete Buttigieg, the mayor, has more trouble with African Americans. So does it indicate which candidates are likely to do better in those three critical swing states?
Well, I'm not really one who's willing to say what things are going to look like in a few months. It's November. We haven't had Iowa caucus yet. We haven't had New Hampshire primary, and we certainly have not had the South Carolina race, so which is one which will be dominated by black voters in the Democratic primary. Right now, you're absolutely correct that Biden is very strong with black voters. Buttigieg is very weak, as are most of the other candidates, for that matter.
That was Bloomberg Opinion columnist Frank Wilkinson. You can read more on this and other stories from Bloomberg Opinion at Bloomberg.com/opinion and on the terminal by typing OPIN GO. Holiday shopping is right around the corner, and Bloomberg's Romaine Bostic spoke with Imran Khan, the co-founder and CEO of e-commerce company Verishop and former Snap Chief Strategy Officer.
All right, Imran, this is a relatively new website, relatively new platform. In a sea of several other platforms, I guess my first question is why? What's the strategy here?
Yeah, so a couple of things. First of all, e-commerce is only 10% of overall retail sales. And whenever a market gets 10% penetration, we usually see accelerated disruption. We saw that with Netflix. When Netflix got 10% penetration, Blockbuster went out of business. We saw that with digital advertising. When digital advertising reached 10%, we saw accelerated growth. So I think e-commerce will be 30 to 40% of the market, and not one company can solve all problems, and there will be new players. The second big thing is, I think the consumers' loyalty to brands have been decreasing.
Yeah.
You know, I think the millennials are now willing to try a lot of new brands as opposed to their parent generation who are a fan of few brands. So we're seeing a lot of new brands popping up, and there's not a lot of good places to discover those brands. So we created this platform to consumers to discover a lot of cool new brands.
Sure.
And then the third thing is that we're also seeing that a lot of the large brands who are heavily dependent on department stores, they need a new avenue of distribution, and we are becoming a distribution platform for them as well.
And one thing that gets consumers' attention is the free one-day shipping as well. Is that going to be a permanent feature? Because we know from seeing other companies that this can get awfully expensive awfully quickly. Amazon, for instance, sees its costs expanding and rising on this.
Yeah, we believe that consumer shops for 4 reasons: price, quality, convenience, and selection. And one of the things that we promised, a brand is a promise, and Verishop promise is that convenience is one of the areas that we're going to focus on. So we're going to continue to invest more and more. How can we deliver the product faster, better, and more efficiently? And then the second promise is discovery. So we're bringing in all these global international brands, a lot of these new discovery brands that you would not find anywhere else.
But what's the advantage here? I mean, you're bringing in all of these brands, but then I'm sure there are some department store executives over at Macy's or Bloomingdale's that would say, well, we already do that. What's the attraction for me to go to Verishop instead of going to Macy's.com or to Walmart.com?
Yeah, and I think I'm going to go back to the Verishop promise.
And this is just about a broadening market? Or?
Yeah, no, I think I'm going to go back to Verishop promise.
Right.
Number one is in terms of discovery. If you look at our top 10 brands in man, women, home, and beauty, many of those brands, probably more than half of them, you will not find it any other department stores or other stores. So they're really discovery brands.
Okay.
You know, I think one of the things that's happening in the retail industry, I call it democratization of retail. So democratization of retail is a 2.0 of democratization of media. So think about it. Before 2000, if you wanted to be a creator, your life was controlled by few media outlets.
Yeah.
But then bloggers came along, then YouTubers came along, then Instagrammers and Snapchatters came along, and content really fragmented, and people consuming content from many different places. Same thing is happening in retail. People don't want to wear the same thing. They don't want to, they're trying lots of different things. So you need a place to discover that.
Will you have a physical component to this? Will there be a brick and mortar showroom, for instance? Because as much as I love the idea of discovering new brands and experimenting and seeing your curated selection, if I can't see it or feel it, I'm not assured of the quality.
So that goes back to our second promise, which is convenience. So we have free one-day shipping and free return and 24/7 customers. So you can actually
feel it before I actually buy it.
Yeah, but you can return it, right? So the key thing is with the physical stores, it's really difficult to house all sorts of choices. I'm not saying that we're never going to have physical stores, but the thing is that when you the benefit of the digital world is that you can have unlimited selections. And so that really, and through machine learning, ultimately you can match the people, right content with the right person.
All good points, but every single digital brand has ended up creating a digital, an actual physical store as well.
I mean, do people know Verishop? I mean, I know you only started the site earlier this year, but is it at a stage now where you have enough brand awareness?
No, not where we need to be, but I think our brand awareness is going really nicely. Like I think December, I'm expecting that we'll have roughly 1 million monthly unique users on our site. So, which is some pretty healthy growth for a company
brick and mortar. There's a lot of empty spots down Fifth Avenue.
That was Imran Khan, the co-founder and CEO of e-commerce company Verishop. And that's all for this edition of Bloomberg Best. You can see all of our best work at NI Best Go on the Bloomberg Terminal. Our show is produced by Caroline O'Brien. I'm June Grosso, and this is Bloomberg.
Far wing elevates, triple bucket.
The war of the crowd. The shot clock ticks down. Will the ball go in? The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. And the replays just don't cut
The
it.
sideline, the Van Fleet for three.
TuneIn Premium brings you every minute of the NBA season streaming live, so you can be there when it matters most. Hear it now, hear it live on TuneIn.
Fake in the lane, turnaround jumper from 8 feet is good on the
Search
right.
NBA today to start listening.
Ah, finally another commercial, said no one ever. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade now and get over 45 commercial-free music stations. Some days life can get in the way of catching up on the news that moves your world. TuneIn is here to help. With live 24/7 coverage from CNN wherever you go on the TuneIn app, you can always find a slice of your schedule, however long, to check in on the biggest stories of the day.
Hell hath no fury. The president's counselor went on a rampage on a taped phone call with Washington Examiner reporter.
Search CNN on TuneIn to get the live news when it matters most.
From ESPN and the award-winning producers of The Sterling Affairs comes the latest season of 30 for 30 podcasts. 4 brand new stories of espionage.
He wanted this team to be the Barcelona of women's basketball.
Resilience.
I started to scream. I tried to get away.
Corruption.
It's the culture of win at all costs.
And rebirth.
How will we ever rebuild it?
30 for 30 podcasts, season 6. Listen and favorite 30 for 30 podcasts on TuneIn.
Thanksgiving is all about traditions like turkey, cranberry sauce, and bickering about politics with your relatives. If the dinner table gets to be too much, escape for a bit and pop in your earbuds to listen to the excitement of the NFL on TuneIn. We've got live play-by-play of every football game, so you can listen to epic touchdowns instead of your Uncle Harold.
Elliott picks his way into the end zone for the leading touchdown.
Live NFL when it matters the most. Hear it all season long on TuneIn.
Central capital of the world, 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, on the Bloomberg Business app, and at TikTok on Twitter. This is Bloomberg Radio.
This is Bloomberg Daybreak Asia for this Tuesday, November 26th here in Hong Kong, Monday, November 25th in New York. And coming up this hour.
Looks like a mixed to higher open for stocks in Asia after U.S. equities gained on trade optimism.
Westpac CEO out amid a massive money laundering scandal.
And mergers in the luxury and brokerage industries.
Stunning results in Hong Kong as the official election numbers are released. Kim Jong-un orders artillery firing along disputed border with South Korea. The chair of the House Intelligence Committee says a first impeachment report should be released soon after Thanksgiving. I'm Ed Baxter with Global News.
Would Tottenham be interested in Zlatan Ibrahimovic while the Ravens and the Rams battle on Monday Night Football? I'm Dan Schwartzman. I'll have those stories and more coming up in Bloomberg Sports.
That's all straight ahead on Bloomberg Daybreak Asia, on Bloomberg 1130 New York, Bloomberg 99.1 Washington, D.C., Bloomberg 106.1 Boston, Bloomberg 960 San Francisco, Sirius XM 119, and around the world on BloombergRadio.com and via the Bloomberg Business app.
All right. Hi, everybody, and good morning from Hong Kong. I'm Brian Curtis.
And I'm Rashad Salamat, also in Hong Kong. Bloomberg Daybreak Asia, presented by Interactive Brokers. Their margin loans start at 3.06% and decrease for larger loan values. Rates subject to change. Learn more at ibkr.com/compare. Right, let's have a look at what we have in store for the second Asian trading day of the week. We have certainly some tailwinds coming through from the Street of Dreams, don't we? And here is Bloomberg's Doug Krisner.
You're absolutely right. Records across the board for the Dow, the S&P 500, and the NASDAQ comp. Primary driver here, Rashad, optimism on the U.S.-China trade story. We'll have more on exactly what happened as we roll on here on the program. But suffice it to say, it looked as though over the weekend, Beijing was trying to address
address one of the sticky points in the dispute, intellectual property. Also pointed out to a rally in Hong Kong in the last session, the local elections that we'll learn more about when we check in with Ed Baxter, brought a landslide victory to pro-democracy candidates. Hang Seng was up 1.5%. A lot of merger and acquisition activity in the States as well. Details on that in a moment. So we have the Dow up 0.7%, 28 grand, 66. S&P 500 better by about 0.8% to 3133. NASDAQ now at 8632 with a gain of 1.3%. After the bell. Enterprises reporting sales below estimates. Stock is down about 4% in late U.S. trade. Long-term interest rates coming in ever so slightly. 10-year Treasury, 175. So that's where the action is going to begin in the Tokyo session. Got a much weaker yen here at 108.92. That's going to give a lift to Chicago. Nikkei futures at 23,435. So, Brian, we could see a little bit of positivity in Asia.
Yeah, pretty much looks that way. Although of late, sometimes we've been leading in Asia over Wall Street following. So we'll see what sort of developments. We have a lot of new developments on the elections here. China summoning the U.S. ambassador over alleged interference in Hong Kong affairs. That's one thing. And China's state media reported the elections, that they had been held, but they gave no results. The pro-democracy camp winning 392 seats, the pro-establishment camp just 60. And also, I wanted to mention that these doubts are now arising that China will adopt a softer stance here, given that it came out yesterday with full backing for Carrie Lam. So lots more to talk about as we look ahead. And we've got the trade story as well with the IP protections. But Bloomberg's Sean Donnan in Washington says, yes, there's reason for hope, but don't hang your hat on it.
Once we get a phase one deal, if we get a phase one deal, the question's immediately going to turn to whether the Chinese are living up to those commitments, whether it be agricultural purchases or things like these IP guidelines.
Interestingly, the peaceful elections here in Hong Kong could also help get a deal. One high-level U.S. trade